I've made it no stranger on this channel that Yu-Gi-Oh was my gateway into competitive trading card games. I've been playing Yu-Gi-Oh ever since I was a wee little lad, having no idea how to actually play the game, and then I picked up the game in 2018 and played it for a good 6 years before dropping it completely and swapping over to Pokemon, but I have come back here and there, but I still don't play as much as I used to. And because I don't play as much as I used to, I've mainly stuck with one deck throughout that entire time, that deck being White Forest. Released almost a year ago in Infinite Forbidden, White Forest is a Synchro based archetype that is basically part of the Diabellstar Lore, because Yu-Gi-Oh always has like this big lore story that spans across multiple sets. Orcust and the Mech Knights and the World Keys or whatever it was, and then it was Owlbaz and all that kind of stuff, and the one that has just finished is Diabellstar. The final wave of Diabellstar Lore and thus support is released in the newest set Alliance Insight, giving a conclusion to the lore and thus no more cards for White Forest, Snake Eye, Diabell. I believe Goblin Biker was part of it. Probably won't be coming out anymore, so this is the final wave of support for all those decks. And then we'll move into the new lore heavy archetype, which I don't remember the name of it, but it was revealed a while ago. Thus, this deck has changed quite a lot since Infinite Forbidden. It's had, I believe, 3 waves of support. It had the original wave, and then it had the Azamina stuff, which came out in a set, I don't remember which one it was. And then we had a small amount of support in Supreme Darkness, and we've had even more support in the newest set, Alliance Insight. And this deck has changed quite a lot. It used to go from a very heavy synchro based strategy that used to rely on other engines in order to help it, but now you pretty much rely on just like the main White Forest engine and a couple of supplementary engines that the deck can bridge into, because of course it's Diabellstar and it has multiple different types of lores, so everything kind of bridges together. I've been playing with this deck ever since it released, and I really like it, even though it's not considered the best deck in the format. I believe at the moment it is pretty good. When it first released in Infinite Forbidden, it was sort of just like this new archetype that couldn't really do much, and then as more and more support came out, it slowly started to become a lot better, and I believe in the new format with Alliance Insight, despite Malice and Ryziel and Mitsurugi being everywhere, this deck is still pretty good and is able to compete. I can tell that because the prices of LZ of the White Forest have almost doubled since it came out. But enough dilly-dallying, let's get straight into the deck profile, starting with the main deck. Starting off with the main starters for the engine, 3 LZ and 3 Sylvia. So in previous iterations of this deck when it originally released, this was a key card. This not so much, you mainly played about like 2 copies of this, but now this card is pretty much your dedicated normal summon for the deck. For those of you who don't know what they do, LZ allows you to send a spell or trap from hand or field to the graveyard to special summon herself and then search a White Forest monster. That's all one effect, so you don't summon it and then search, you summon and search at the same time. And if it's in the graveyard and you summon a light spellcaster tuner during your opponent's turn, you can add it back to hand. And then Sylvie says on normal or special summon you can search a White Forest spell or trap, and if she's in the graveyard, you can target a White Forest Synchro monster on your field or in the graveyard, return to the extra and special summon her, but her effects are negated. So pretty much you want to open with one of these or a combination of both, or basically any way to get one of them into your hand, which there are many ways to do in this deck, because these are your main starters for the deck. And again, there are many different ways that you can bridge into them, which is always really good. But yeah, you want to max out on these. You don't want to play 2 like we were in previous builds, and you want to max out on this and this. You want to play 3 and 3 of both of these because they are the most important White Forest monsters in the deck. The ones that are not so much, 1 Rusia, 1 Astellar, 1 LZ, and 1 of the new Diabells. So Rusia is there just as another name and another tuner. She can special summon herself from the hand if you control a White Forest monster, and she also has the same graveyard effect. She can also send a spell or trap from your hand or field to the graveyard to draw a card, which can be pretty useful considering the White Forest cards set themselves back to the field if they're sent to the graveyard by a card effect. Astellar used to be the good normal summon for the deck, but not so much now that we have LZ. This card right here is the main reason why we only play 1 of this, because basically the main combo is that you go LZ, summon, search Sylvie, normal summon Sylvie, add the one that searches, and then you synchro into the 6, send the card that searches, do another search and activate the search card to basically get this and extend. It's basically probably one of the best extenders in the deck, and by extension probably one of the best extenders in the game. time, she can reveal herself to summon any white forest monster from your hand, including herself, and if she's sent to the graveyard for Synchro summon, you can add a Sinful Spoils card from your deck to your hand, which again is another way that the archetype bridges into other archetypes. Plus you may notice her name is LZ Azamina, which means you can search her with Azamina cards. Again, another bridge, which is something that this deck does really well, is that you'll do your Azamina stuff, and then the Azamina stuff bridges into either Sinful Spoils or White Forest, and then you can do all that stuff, which then bridges into another archetype, and you can see where it kind of gets out of hand. And then the new card Diabells says that you can special summon her in the same way with LZ. You send a spell or trap from hand or field to the graveyard, and if she is special summoned, you can foolish borrow a Diabell or Sinful Spoils spell or trap. We'll get into those in a moment. But the main thing about her is on field effects. She said that while you control 2 or more Diabell monsters, your monsters cannot be destroyed by card effects, which is a very, very nice piece of protection because it protects all of your monsters as long as you control 2 monsters that have Diabell in the name, which, you know, we have Diabellstar, we have Diabells, we have the level 8 Synchro Diabell. It's very easy to get 2 Diabell monsters on the field and just blanket protect all of your monsters from card effects. Very, very strong card, and again, you only need to play like one of all of these because you can search them. The deck has so many search options because it's a meme that the deck loses to Droll, which is, you know, very, very true. And now for the spells. We're going to start off with the new field spell because this card is extremely powerful. In fact, this card is a 1-card combo, so on activation you can add a White Forest monster from your deck to your hand. However, you cannot special summon dark monsters from the extra deck for the rest of the turn, which does limit you in some aspects because you can't summon your Azamina stuff. I believe you also can't summon stuff like Chaos Angel. I think Chaos Angels are dark. It basically locks you out of a big part of your extra deck. But the main thing is that you can do your Azamina stuff first, then activate this. So, you know, you already have your Silvera on the field for a free Omni Negate, and then you just activate this and do all your White Forest stuff. But yeah, this card is extremely strong. It's a 1-card combo, and it's also just a search. It also has another effect where I think it's just your White Forest monsters. If they would be destroyed by battle, they're not the first time. You can also target a White Forest monster you control, and it becomes a tuner, which can be pretty good for making like some level 10s and maybe some level 12s if you don't have a tuner on the board. Like you can make LZ a tuner, you can make Diabells a tuner if you really need to. And then the other cards, One Tails is a search card and it's searchable itself. It can also reset itself if it's sent to the graveyard. One Sinful Spoils of the White Forest. This is either a special summon from the hand or a fusion spell. It's one of the main cards that you want to end on because you can summon stuff like Guardian Chimera with this during your opponent's turn. And then one Apps, which is a bounce depending on how many Spellcaster, Illusion, and I think Fiend, Synchro, and Fusion monsters you have on field and in graveyard. At most, it's a bounce 4, which is, you know, a pretty good compulsory evacuation device for 4 cards is pretty good. And that's the White Forest engine. Now for the Diabellstar Sinful Spoils engine. We have a Diabellstar, 3 Wanted, 1 Deception, and 1 Hollowed. So before, we were probably playing like 2 or 3 Diabellstar. You don't really need to anymore. I'd rather play a heavy lineup of spells than monsters. 3 Wanted, so we can search Diabellstar, but it can also search the new Diabellstar, which we'll get into in a moment. Deception, which can allow you to get Hollowed Azamina, which then lets you summon one of your Azamina fusion monsters. Kind of don't like really need this, because you could just use LZ, search this, and then summon back your tuner from the graveyard, and then tribute it with this to get this. So yeah, again, another way that the deck bridges into other engines. Very, very powerful. Plus, Hollowed Azamina can shuffle back LZ Azamina to add itself back to hand instead of having to shuffle back one of your fusion monsters. And then for the new engine, one Diabellstar Vengeance. I still think the Japanese name is better. It was like Diabellstar Sin Adjudicator, which just sounds really cool. 1 Filia, 1 Curse, and also 1 Morian Slumber. So Diabellstar Vengeance says that you can special summon her if you banish a spell and trap from your graveyard. In most cases you're going to banish these 2. And she says that you can pay half your life points to target a card in the field, destroy it. Then if you control another Diabell monster, you can special summon a Spellcaster or Illusion Synchro tuner from your extra deck. Very similar to the level 8 Diabell monster. Again, it's one of your key end pieces because not only can it destroy something, but it basically gets you a free body on the field, which can then extend you into other Synchro plays, as we'll get into later on. Filia lets you search this, basically, and Curse lets you search Filia. So you would summon Diabells, the White Witch, Foolish this, which searches this, which then searches this. That's how you get into it. And then Morian is there for, like, say if you draw this and you send it off of a White Forest card to then search this. You can set Foolish this, which says that if you control a level 5 or higher illusion monster, you can set it to your field, and it's a Book of Moon for special summoned monsters. Also, the Philia spell says that if it's banished, so you banish it for the cost of Diabellstar, it gives all of your Diabell monsters a permanent 500 attack boost. So do keep that in mind. And then for hand traps, 2 Ash, 2 Veiler, 2 Droll, and 3 Imperm. I want to have, you know, options, so that's why I'm playing 2, 2, and 2 instead of 3 and 3. You know, this is searchable, so you could actually like play this at 1 and maybe like play a third of these or third of these. It's all up to you, but I just want to have options, obviously. So playing 2, 2, and 2 is just better for me because it gives you the possibility of opening multiple, so you could open an Astral and Veiler, which is always pretty good. And then for this other stuff, 1 call by to stop hand traps. 3 Metal Tronus, so this was originally 3 Triple Tactics talent, but that's recently been limited to 1 on the ban list. I was thinking of playing 2 Thrust and 1 talents, but Thrust is mainly something you want to have in the side deck for when you know if you're going first or second, so then you could play more Thrust targets in the deck. So I decided to go with Metal Tronus because it not only lets you negate a monster your opponent controls, but you can also just get a free body off of it because you target a monster on the field, special summon a monster from your deck or extra deck that has 2 of the same things in common with it. I believe it's type, attribute, and attack, and then you summon it and then both monsters are negated, but if you summon a monster with the same name, they're both banished. So it basically allows you to negate something on the field and get a free body out of it, plus your opponent cannot respond with the targeted monster's effects. And then 1 Angel Statue Azarun because we are playing Silhat Rabbit. And now for the extra deck, 1 Rusia, 1 Silvera, and 1 Diabell Queen. Rusia allows you to search. Silvera is an interruption on your opponent's turn, as you can Book of Moon all of their monsters, and you summon it by using Diabell. She also gives all of your, I think it's Illusion and Spellcaster Synchro monsters 500 attack, and they can inflict double piercing damage. This gives them 500 attack, and I believe they can't be destroyed by card effects or battle, one of the 2. And then Diabell says that if she's summoned with a Synchro tuner, you can add any spell or trap from your graveyard to your hand, which is always pretty good because if you've used something like Called By during your turn to negate a hand trap, you can just add it back and then you have it for your turn. Or if you've had to get rid of something like an Infinite Impermanence in your hand or a Metal Tronus, you can then just add it back so now you have it for your opponent's turn. And then during your opponent's turn, you can send a spell or trap from hand or field to the graveyard to summon a tuner Synchro monster that I think is level 5 or lower from your extra deck, so you can summon out this and just Book of Moon your opponent's board. Plus, summoning this will trigger your LZ in the graveyard to add it back to hand, so now you have a fusion material for Guardian Chimera with the Sinful Spoils fusion spell, because Guardian Chimera does require a monster from the hand, as well as at least 1 from the field. And then we have the 2 new ones, Poplar of the White Forest and Snake Eye Vengeance Dragon. So Poplar of the White Forest says that if it's special summoned, you can target 2 White Forest monsters in your graveyard and place them into the spell and trap card zone, and it also has a quick effect Synchro during your opponent's main phase. Keep in mind it's during the main phase, so if they go into battle phase, you can't use the effect. The effect to place 2 White Forest monsters in your spell and trap card zone may seem a bit useless, but we do play something in the extra deck that we can utilise with this. And then Vengeance Dragon says that as a quick effect, during your opponent's main phase, you can target a card on the field or in graveyard and put it into the spell and trap card zone, but you can't use that effect during the next turn. And it also has an effect during the battle phase, which says you can target a continuous spell on the field and a monster and destroy them both. So you can put one of your opponent's resources into the spell and trap card zone, and then during the battle phase, destroy another monster they control and that resource that you put in the spell and trap card zone. Yeah, it's pretty good. Because you deny them a monster, and then if they try to get rid of something on your field, you can just pop both of the monsters, and you can use the battle phase effect again next turn. So say you use Poplar to put one of your White Forest monsters in spell and trap card zone, you could pop your own White Forest monster and one of their monsters during the battle phase, or during like the next battle phase, so on and so forth. There's so many things you can do with this card, and it's basically the new boss monster of the deck. It's pretty good at that. And then other stuff, 1 Chaos Angel, because it's very easy to make. You can make this with a light and dark very, very easily. So that means all of your Synchro monsters are unaffected by monster effects and they can't be destroyed by battle. Pretty good. And then we have the Azamina stuff, 1 Sylvia, 1 Riseligo, and 1, I forget the name of this one, Regina. I was originally playing Saint Azamina, but you don't really summon it that often, to be honest. I thought it was a good card, and it is a good card. These are just the better ones, to be honest. Sylvia is an Omni-Negate by tributing, I think, herself, or you can tribute another Azamina monster. It's one of the two. Rucia lets you search an Azamina or Sinful Spores card, so it bridges into your White Forest stuff because you can search LZ Azamina. And then Mo Regina says that if you activate an Azamina or Sinful Spores card, you can target 2 cards on the field and destroy them, and you can also special summon an illusion monster back from your graveyard, which means you could summon something back like, I don't know, Diabell or Poplar. You see what I mean, it's pretty good. Plus, another thing to note is that if Severa is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can add a Sinful Spoils card, I believe from your graveyard, no, it's from the deck. And Ruseliger says that all of your opponent's monsters lose 500 attack for each Azamina monster you control, which is, like, okay-ish, I guess. It's pretty decent, though I don't think it really ever comes up. And then for the other fusions, one, Chorozo, you can make this as a way to bridge into your White Forest stuff again, because you can make Ruseliger, and then if you have Diabell on the field, you can send them both away to summon this, and because you'd search Elza Azamina with your Ruseliger, you can then summon herself and go into the level 6 Synchro. Guardian Chimera to pop stuff on your opponent's turn and also draw cards. And one Snake Eyes Doom Dragon, because you can use Poplar to put 2 White Forest monsters in your spell and trap card zone, and then during your turn, send them to the graveyard and summon this, which lets you put a monster your opponent controls into the spell and trap card zone. Very good. It's also just a free 3000 attack body. And then for other stuff, one Star Destroyer. If you get hand trapped into Oblivion, you can just summon this and spin something back and just sit on it, I guess. And then one SP Little Knight and one Silhat Rabbit. If you don't really have anything else to go into, or you've been hand trapped a little bit and you can't go full combo, you could maybe under one of these, plus you can end on this under the White Forest field spell. So say you get hand trapped, you can end on this and at least end on a Solemn Strike with the Azarun statue and so on and so forth. And that concludes the deck profile. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, what you think about this deck. Is this something that you've been eyeing up for some time? I know a lot of people have recently started picking it up because they realise, this deck is actually pretty good and it's got more support recently, so that's even more reason to play it. I've been playing it ever since it released, and I can say it is a very, very fun deck. It's also a very complicated deck. There are many instances where I've forgotten to activate some effects, or I've just blanked out on like activating something and so on and so forth. It's also a deck that takes quite a bit of time to combo, but if you know your combo lines, then you can just go through it very quickly, so on and so forth. It's a very fun deck. It's a deck that I'll probably be playing for the foreseeable future until, I don't know, it gets banned or it gets power crept into Oblivion and then I have to play something else. But I think this deck will stick around for quite a while until, something comes that just completely blows it out of the park. Make sure to like, comment and subscribe, all of that nonsense, and I will see you in the next video, whatever that may be. Take care.